Legend of Total War here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the news that's going on at the moment that is heavily going to impact Creative Assembly and Total War. So there's a lot of things to unpack here. Just from this statement here alone doesn't provide us that much information, but this has been out for about a day now, and what I do is I don't report on the stuff straight away. I like to find out this stuff and then dig a little bit deeper and talk to a few people, talk to some of my sources, and see if I can get a better picture of it, because this does not tell the whole story. So this is the gist of it. Sega sells Relic and will cut 240 jobs across UK studios. That does not tell much of the story. So I don't think that Sega selling Relic and the cut of 240 jobs is directly related. Why would it be? Unless it was all part of Sega's plan. Because what's happened here with Relic, from what I've heard, is that they have found an independent investor, and that they have essentially bought their independence from Sega. So they're no longer essentially a protectorate of Sega. They've released their overlords, and now they're just sink or swim on their own. So good luck to them. I hope, hey, if you make a Dawn of War 4, I'll at least take a look at it. Hopefully it's good this time. So good luck to Relic with that. They're no longer part of Sega. I don't think that being part of Sega was necessarily bad for Relic, but it'd be interesting to see what they do as they become independent. However, that's not really what I want to talk about today. I'm not that invested in Relic. Now, the 240 job cuts. Now, it's cited these three companies here, but apparently it's not evenly spaced out. So it's not like 80, 80, 80. It's more like 160 to, I don't know, it's just a lot go to Creative Assembly, and then the rest go to these two. So it's primarily going to impact Creative Assembly. And from what I've heard, it's an absolute shit show at Creative Assembly at the moment. Like, it's red alert, panicked. Like, Sega executives are there, basically cracking the whips. It's short of basically having people put in firing lines. It's that bad. Like, they are really angry at Creative Assembly, and they want things to turn around, which I don't blame Sega, because Creative Assembly did such a bad job last year. Holy moly, hyenas. My god, I can't think in living memory of a game doing that badly. You know, $100 million hole. You know, that they're going to want that money back. And the thing is, that's a lot of Total War games they need to sell. So from what I've heard, the entire console team is just gone. They just don't have a console team. Creative Assembly should rename themselves to Total War Assembly, because that's all they're making for the foreseeable future. And from what I've heard as well, is that their foreseeable future might not be that long. Like, if they don't turn this shit around quick, this is the worst case scenario. That if they don't turn their shit around quickly, Creative Assembly is going to get liquidated by Sega, and they're just going to call it quits. I hope that's not what's going to happen. So I'm really rooting for Creative Assembly to turn around, and apparently a lot is riding on Thrones of Decay. So what are the impact of what's this going to do, basically? So if you're a Warhammer fan, which I'm assuming you are, if you're watching this, most people are, that Thrones of Decay shouldn't be delayed again. So, you know, obviously Thrones of Delay is a bit of the meme, and I think they're very much aware of that. It shouldn't be delayed again. So it should still be coming in April. I think they were going to tease it this week, but there's a lot going on at the moment, so they decided not to. They're going to tease it next week, apparently. But it's still on track for April. Maybe it was delayed a couple of days. Maybe it was due in mid-April, now late April. Hard to say. They didn't give exact days on this stuff. But Warhammer stuff is still to keep going, because that is the main moneymaker. Even though Shadows of Change didn't do as well as what other Warhammer 2 DLC did, it also wasn't really that good. So make good DLC, and I'm sure people will actually buy it. So I really hope it comes with substantial race updates, because that's what really made those DLCs worth it, in my opinion, for Warhammer 2, because they did that consistently in the later stages of it with every single DLC. There was a major race update, and they were really good for the most part. So Warhammer stuff's fine. Now, in terms of the longevity of Warhammer, I have heard that it's going to be over fairly soon for Warhammer Fantasy. That it's not going to be 10 DLCs. They may not even make it to 100 Legendary Lords. Apparently, yeah, it's maybe got 6 DLCs left. Not sure, but it's, from what I've heard. I mean, obviously, if things turn around, maybe they'll extend it. These things have a habit of changing as time goes on, but the current trajectory of Total Warhammer is not going to live that long, because they've got plans to bring Total War Warhammer 40k in as soon as possible because that's what they feel is going to be their big moneymaker. And they're not necessarily wrong with that. As soon as Warhammer 40k is out, you know that they're not going to give a shit about fantasy anymore. This is a Total War Warhammer 40k, even if it's crap, which it probably will be when it first launches, is probably going to have 3 times the player count of Total War Warhammer Fantasy, which sucks if you don't care about 40k. But that's just the nature of how it is. We had a good run with 40k. With fantasy, we had a good run. Anyway, now historical stuff. If you're sitting there hoping that something's going to happen with Pharaoh, I would not hold my breath on that. I think Pharaoh is basically done and dusted. There might be one more free update coming, and I think it's pretty much over for Pharaoh. We'll go into that in a little bit, but I'm just going to skip over that for now. As for the next major historical Total War game, this is something that I'm actually really excited for. From what I've heard, sounds pretty good. I don't know if it's actually good. I've also heard that it's going through developer hell, but from what I've heard as well, every single Total War game goes through developer hell. So this is, from what I've heard, take it with a pinch of salt, going to be a 19th century Total War game that has the whole world map and naval warfare returned. So big Total War game with a new iteration of either the Warscape engine or Unreal Engine 5. Not sure about that. I've heard conflicting reports on that. This is something to be possibly excited about if you're interested in gunpowder warfare. Obviously, if you're not interested in gunpowder warfare, you'd be like, I want Medieval 3. I've heard Medieval 3 is coming, but it's not going to be for a while. Those are the 2 big games that will save Total War, really. It's Medieval 3 or a whole world sort of Empire Total War. Sometime between 17th century and 19th century. That's basically what they want from Empire. Post-Napoleonic is apparently the scope that they want to go for. That's what I've heard. May adjust, I don't know. But apparently this was due to come out late this year. But obviously due to the amount of worker loss that they've had, that was pushed back to early 2025 and now has even been pushed into early 2026 from what I'm hearing. And that it's possible that Warhammer 40k Total War will actually come out before the next historical Total War game. So that is really disappointing information to hear, because I would really like a good historical Total War to sink my teeth into before going back into like sci-fi or fantasy. Because we've just had so many years of just non-stop fantasy. I would like some grounded historical stuff for a little bit, but not hearing good stuff on that front. So that's very unfortunate. I guess Sega just doesn't feel like there's much interest in history at the moment, which I think is complete bullshit, because all you got to do is look at the previous few years of Total War games, all the way back to, say, Rome 1 even. All of these games, with a few exceptions, have higher player counts than Total War Pharaoh, right? Total War Pharaoh, like 300 to friggin' 700 players. Not particularly good. You look at Medieval 2, between like 2 and 4,000. Rome 2 still has consistently like 6,000 players. Three Kingdoms, also about 6,000 players. 7,000 even. These games are fairly old, but they've still got loyal players that play it every single day, despite the fact that these games are not being updated. And Creative Assembly is not capitalizing on Sega, I guess. Is not capitalizing on that. Like, you could very easily take all the players that are currently playing Medieval 2 and bring them into a new Total War game. But the reason they're staying on Medieval 2 is because they feel, I mean, feel free, you guys are the ones that play it. Tell me if I'm wrong. Out of all the selection of Total War games, you are playing the Total War game that you like the best. And if a new Total War game came along and it was your new favorite, you would probably stop playing Medieval 2. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, or are you just loyal to Medieval 2 and you'll just never not play it no matter what? Like, if another Medieval game came out, would you stop playing Medieval 2 and play Medieval 3? That's basically what I'm asking. Same thing with Rome 2. If a new Rome Total War came out, Rome 3, that was better than Rome 2, that's not hard, would you ditch Rome 2 and play Rome 3? Maybe, but the thing is, you're not going to get people to ditch Medieval 2 for Pharaoh, and I think that's the big thing to take away from that. Now, talking a little bit about Pharaoh, it does seem as though these job cuts might be because of Pharaoh. Because if we have a look here, Sega blames poor financial quarter on weak sales of recent games, but infinite wealth in the future. Okay, I mean, this is just an article. So you can see here that they blame Total War Pharaoh, among other games, for that. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that while Pharaoh was developed by CA Sophia, keeping the costs down, you got to keep in mind how Sega operates, is that they're a publicly listed company. It's not about just staying afloat. and just making sure that they can pay their bills. They have investors. They have people that put their money on the stock exchange to buy Sega Sammy stock so they can get a dividend. And if it's not making more money than it was previously, or if other companies are making more money and the stock price is going down, people will sell the stock in Sega Sammy and buy it somewhere else. And that's not good for Sega Sammy. And the way for them to turn that around is to just make more money. And there's two basic ways to make more money. You either increase your revenue and or decrease your overheads, your expenses. And since this game here, while it probably wasn't a huge loss, maybe not even a loss for Creative Assembly, because like I said, CA Sophia is like 1/5 the cost per workforce as Horsham. And even though they sold like 1/3 of what Thrones of Britannia sold, this game was probably made for pennies because it was turned around in 18 months pretty much. Reuses a lot of the same assets of Troy. Just a really cheap game to make. But they were projecting, I think, to sell 1 million copies, because I heard a quote from Rob Bartholomew that Total War games consistently sell between 1 and 2 million copies, and that the Total War fan base isn't growing, which I kind of agree with. It isn't growing. And that the way to make more money is to increase the expenditure per player, which I fucking don't agree with at all. And I think that was fireable offense for him to say that. I think he has actually he's either been fired or he's left the company. Potato. We won't ever truly know. Whatever the case is, from what I've heard and seen, he's not at Creative Assembly anymore. And with that kind of attitude, don't fucking want him back either, because I don't know if he could be like the most fun person in the world. He might be a really nice guy in person, but I don't know him, and I only care about what he has to bring to the table. And that fucking attitude, get out the door. I don't want to hear any of that, because that is a defeatist attitude. There is definitely room to grow for Total War, but you don't grow Total War by making garbage, because people don't talk about it. It doesn't go viral because people don't. The fans of the franchise aren't like, yeah, this is amazing. They're not saying that kind of stuff. I talk to people all the time that are fans of games, and they know about Total War games. Like, I'll go to some place and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm a Total War YouTuber. And they're like, oh yeah, I used to play Total War back when it was Medieval 2. I don't play the new Total War games anymore. All the damn time. In fact, over the past friggin' 10 years of me being on YouTube, do you know how rare it is for me to come across somebody who likes the new Total War games? It's so fucking rare within my age group. Most people are like, I still play games, I just don't play Total War games. You've lost so much of your original player base because you're just not making fucking fantastic games compared to what you were in the past, or you're just not keeping up with the trends. That's why you're only selling 2 to 3 million a copy per game, because these games aren't that good sometimes. They're okay. They're okay, but they're not as good as they could be. So make better games, and you'll sell more copies, possibly. But that being said, there was no amount there was no amount of development that Pharaoh could have done that was going to make it sell 4 million copies, because not a popular time frame. But you could do that, I think, with Medieval 3 or Empire 2. I think you could do that. Don't know, though. What do I know? That's just from keeping my ear to the ground and talking to people. People say they're aware of Total War, but they're just not interested in it anymore when I talk to people in real life. And that's a shame, because I was like, I love Total War, even for all of the missteps that it's made. I still love it. Anyway, so bad news for historical Total War there, if it's being delayed that much, or possibly even indefinitely, so that sucks. But yeah, the fantasy fan bases don't need to worry too much at this stage, unless Sega really cracks the whip anymore. I don't think Creative Assembly can really afford to lose any more staff members. Again, I've said that I think this is a bit unfair to Creative Assembly here, because it wasn't that long ago that they had their gutting from Hyenas. I mean, they had that coming, $100 million hole in the ground. I mean, I feel like that should have been focused entirely on the console team, but maybe it was mostly focused on the console team, and this is the fallout from Pharaoh. Funny thing is, though, it's mostly in the England team, the Horsham, not being affected too much in Sophia, because Total War Pharaoh's problem was not Sophia's fault. The game isn't badly made. It's just not a popular time period. They sold it for too much. It's poorly marketed. They tried to pull the wool over people's eyes. It's just everything they could have done wrong with Pharaoh, they pretty much did. And the development wasn't the actual issue. Reusing that engine, it just didn't cut it. Now, another thing that I want to bring up here is Creative Assembly and what they've been doing. So I think that they've been doing an okay job over the past few months. Ever since this is that's one I want to highlight there. This is the apology letter from Roger Cullum. everything that they've, I went and read through this today, everything they said that they were going to do, they've pretty much done, except for this here. So I want to read this out here. He says, our goal is to invest more in our player channels moving forward, introducing more voices from the studio who can speak to you directly about their work and how that relates to what you want from our titles. And more importantly, keep listening to your feedback. So the way I interpreted that was something that they used to do. They used to get Tom and Wheels to come on and just play Total War Warhammer 2, right? And they just talk to the community, tell them roughly what they're doing, just be really chill. And I remember I would interact with them as well while I was live streaming, and it was really cool. But then they stopped doing that for, I don't know, whatever reason. Maybe because the overall mood in the community changed and they just didn't want to be out in the heat. But getting someone to just turn on the webcam and just start playing the game is pretty... like, it doesn't require much cost in doing that. Like, OBS is free, and I'm pretty sure they still got the webcam. They haven't done this, and it's only been a quarter of a year. So this came out in this apology in December. So it's been a quarter of a year, and they haven't really done any of this yet. So it does say it's a work in progress. So I'm not trying to grill them on this, but I'm just saying you haven't done this yet, but you have done the other stuff fairly well. I think that the Shadows of Change 2.0 stuff, 4.2, was pretty okay. You know, not fantastic, didn't blow me out of the water, but it wasn't outrage worthy either. It was pretty middle, and that's honestly pretty good, everything considered. So, yeah, this is unfortunate for sure, just coming back to this. And I'd love to get your opinions on this, and if anyone, either current or ex-Creative Assembly staff member, is watching this video and if I'm misrepresenting anything, I can assure that I'm not doing that deliberately. I'm just forwarding the information that I've received, and I'll correct myself wherever possible. But if you feel like that's the case, feel free to correct me on my email address, which is totalwarlegend@gmail.com. I'll leave that in the description if you want to contact me. That being said, for regular viewers, I normally love reading your comments, but if you just want to send like fan email, just leave a comment, because if you send too many emails, it buries all the important ones. And also, if you're sending disaster battles, that's the email address to use. A lot of people go into the back end of my channel and go to the about section and go to that email address, the one that's at afkcreators.com. That doesn't go to me. So what that email address is for, and I've explained this to you guys before, but you still bloody do it. You know, what ends up happening is that email address is there for all of the like mobile game companies that are searching for YouTubers to market their games. And what they do is they go to the about section of like 1,000 YouTubers, and they don't even check the content of the YouTuber. It's like, oh, this guy's got 400,000 subs. I'll check this guy. Well, 500,000 subs in this case. They go to the about section, check out the email, put it in a list, and then they send it to 1,000 people. And they write it like this: Dear YouTuber, we love your content. We want you to promote Raid Shadow Legends. Anyway, all of those emails go there. They go to my broker, that's AFK Creators. They sift through it and they go, hey Legend, this one was okay. And then 95% of the time, I say, I don't want to do it. So it's like 1 in 10,000 of those emails will I actually go, yeah, okay, I'll actually give that one a look. And in that case there, it was actually Millennia. So that was the 1 in 10,000 email that came back to me. I was like, yeah, this sounds like something I'm interested in. But yeah, most of the time, that's what that email address is for, so don't email that. It's a black hole. So email totalwarlegend@gmail.com. But anyway, appreciate all the support recently. It's been amazing. It's been amazing in the channel. Not hearing great things about Total War, but I'm really rooting for Creative Assembly to do better, like for things to go better for them. I think they've been doing an okay job recently. They definitely haven't been doing any of the like horrible things that they were doing previously. Like their community team hasn't been banning people outright. There hasn't been mass bannings in the forums. It's been pretty quiet though, to be honest. There hasn't been any of that transparency that we've been promised. You know, they're not ripping people off with these ridiculous cash grabs. You know, as long as they're doing more of what they've been currently doing, I want to support them. I'm rooting for Thrones of Decay. I'm rooting for the next historical Total War game. I'm rooting for Total Warhammer 40k, and I'm not rooting for Sega to shut down the shop. And I don't want them to lose any more jobs. So let's hope that the rest of this year can actually be good, because I was hoping for a good 2024, at least for Total War. But it's not a good start so far. But anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Get a discussion going. Let me know if you think I'm on topic or completely off base. Appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Later, guys.